You are now listening to the Vegan Stuff podcast with Caavakushi.
Hosting this podcast today are our two AI hosts, Sam and Kim. If you simply can't get enough of us, go to Caavakushi.com and sign up for our vegan newsletter. And we also have some good news. We will be releasing our first ever cookbook pretty soon, so stay tuned. Hey, don't forget to follow us on our socials too.
All right, so today we're going to be looking into something that I think a lot of people are curious about.
Okay.
Are the Kardashians vegan? And
that is the question.
It is a big question, and it's not a simple yes or no answer. As we've found out in researching this deep dive, we've got articles from all over the place, vegan news sites,
right,
entertainment blogs. We've even got like a super opinionated burger review blog that we're going to be pulling from.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we're really diving deep into this. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because it kind of shows you how much attention the Kardashians get just for even like kind of dipping their toes into the idea of veganism.
Right. And it really shows how influential they are, that people really care about what their diets look like, what they're promoting.
And whether they're being genuine or not.
Yeah.
So let's start with Kim.
Okay.
Kim has made some pretty bold claims about her plant-based journey, saying that a plant-based diet really helped her with her psoriasis.
Yeah, and this is a great example of how celebrities can bring attention to important health topics.
Right.
There's a lot of research emerging on how diet can affect autoimmune diseases like psoriasis.
For sure.
But of course, it's crucial for anyone dealing with a health condition to consult a doctor, not just take a celebrity's word for it.
Yeah, it's not as simple as, swapping a burger for a Beyond Burger.
Right.
But then we see her, promoting Beyond Meat Nuggets 1 minute and like happily chowing down on a steak the next.
Yeah, that can be confusing.
Yeah.
Especially for younger fans who might see her as a vegan icon without understanding
the nuances.
Yeah.
All of the nuances.
And it makes you wonder how much of this is like genuine personal change.
Yeah.
And how much is savvy marketing, especially with her history of, promoting all kinds of products.
Absolutely. And Plant-Based News mentioned her transition from real fur to faux fur after Pamela Anderson reached out to her. So that's a good example of how different motivations can drive these seemingly, quote unquote, vegan choices. Yeah. And then there's the leather.
Oh, the leather.
The ongoing, leather situation.
Yeah. It seems like the definition of a vegan lifestyle is still
up for debate.
Very much so.
Even amongst people who consider themselves to be vegan.
Right. And I think that's a great point because while diet is a huge part of it, veganism generally extends to all aspects of life.
Yeah.
It's about minimizing harm to animals wherever possible, which includes clothing, cosmetics, all kinds of consumer choices.
Yeah. So maybe Kim's not fully vegan, but what about Kourtney?
Okay.
She's the one who said she's mostly vegan.
Right. 95% vegan.
Is that even possible?
Well, not really. The term vegan is typically used to describe an all-or-nothing commitment to avoiding animal products. It's based on an ethical stance, not just a preference. So
you can't be like a little bit pregnant.
Exactly. You either are or you aren't.
Yeah. And Plant-Based News mentioned how Kourtney cut out fish after watching Seaspiracy.
Oh.
You remember that documentary?
I do.
It seemed like it had a huge impact on a lot of people.
Yeah, documentaries can be incredibly powerful tools for raising awareness and driving change.
Totally.
And it's fascinating how a film can spark these kinds of shifts in dietary choices, even for celebrities.
And I think it just reminds you that everyone's on their own journey. And even celebrities, can be influenced by new information. And
for sure.
And speaking of influence, let's talk about that daring chicken ad that Kourtney did with Travis Barker.
Yes.
Who's been vegan for years.
Yeah, he's a longtime vegan.
Yeah.
And so celebrity endorsements can be kind of a double-edged sword for the vegan movement.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, it raises the profile of plant-based alternatives.
Yeah.
It reaches a massive audience.
Right, and it kind of normalizes it, makes it seem less fringe.
Exactly. But there's also the risk of greenwashing.
Oh, yeah.
Where brands use endorsements to appear more ethical than they actually are.
So with Kourtney and Travis, are they helping to make veganism more mainstream? Or are they just cashing in on a trend?
I think it's a question worth considering.
Yeah.
And it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
But their involvement definitely gets people talking.
Yeah.
And that in itself can be a positive step.
For sure. So let's move on to Chloe.
Okay.
Chloe's relationship with plant-based eating seems a bit more complicated.
Yeah, a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, she's not as vocal about it as her sisters.
Right.
But there are some intriguing tidbits in there.
There are.
Plant-based news mentioned that she's been trying more vegan food because of Kim's influence.
Yes, and I think Kim even tweeted something about converting 3 family members.
Oh, that's right.
To a plant-based diet. So it sounds like they have some healthy competition going on.
Yeah, a little friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
Which can be a good motivator.
Definitely. And then there's the pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, Chloe found meat disgusting while she was pregnant and mostly stuck to a vegetarian diet.
You know, pregnancy can really do things to your...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To your food preferences.
It's a time of hormonal shifts.
Yeah.
Heightened senses.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So it's not uncommon for women to experience changes in their food preferences during that time.
And before we move on from Chloe, we have to talk about her past involvement with PETA.
Yes.
Remember that whole naked rather than wear fur campaign?
Oh, yeah, that was iconic.
But then she kind of distanced herself from the organization after the incident where Kim had flour thrown on her by an anti-fur activist.
It really just highlights the complexities of navigating celebrity activism.
Yeah.
There's often a delicate balance between personal beliefs, public image, and, you know, safety concerns as well.
Yeah, it can't be easy to be in the spotlight.
Right.
And try to advocate for a cause, especially when it comes to something as controversial as animal rights.
For sure.
So we've covered Kim Courtney and Chloe.
Yep.
How about the youngest sisters, Kendall and Kylie?
Okay, so they're an interesting contrast.
Okay.
Kendall's been pretty open about the fact that she enjoys eating chicken.
Yeah, I remember that interview.
Which sets her apart from her sisters.
In Harper's Bazaar.
Yes.
Where she basically said, like, I love chicken.
Yeah, I love my meat.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see her being honest about her choices.
Yeah.
Even if they don't perfectly align with, you know,
the plant-based
trend.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Kylie seems to be a bit more on the fence.
Okay.
Didn't she post something on social media about trying out this whole vegan thing?
Right. And then, of course, there's Kylie Cosmetics.
Oh, yeah.
Which launched a vegan line.
Right. And that speaks volumes about, I think, just the growing demand for vegan beauty products.
Absolutely. Brands are finally catching on to the fact that consumers are looking for more ethical and sustainable options.
It's great to see the market responding to that.
Yeah.
But then there's the incident where Kylie was criticized for wearing mink fur.
Right. So again, that kind of goes back to that tension between personal choices and business decisions, especially when you're a public figure with a huge platform.
It's like they're constantly trying to find that balance between what they believe in and what they think will sell.
It's a tightrope walk.
Yeah.
And they don't always get it right.
For sure.
But it's interesting to see how they navigate these challenges.
Yeah. Okay, so we've covered all the sisters now. What about the mastermind behind the Kardashian empire?
Okay.
Kris Jenner.
Ah, the momager.
Yes. Plant-based news covered her promoting plant-based butter.
Yes.
And talking about trying to eat less dairy.
As part of that country crock campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems like even the older generation is getting in on the plant-based action.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, you know, young vegans anymore. The market for dairy alternatives is booming. And brands are coming up with these really creative ways to appeal to older consumers who are looking for those familiar flavors, but with a plant-based twist.
So is Kris on her way to becoming like a full-fledged vegan?
It's hard to say for sure, but it is worth noting that plant-based news also mentioned her daughter's trying to influence her eating habits.
Oh, I can imagine.
A little bit.
Them all sitting around the dinner table debating the merits of plant-based burgers.
It's a fun image, and it brings the whole family dynamic.
Full circle.
Full circle, exactly.
Even if Kris isn't fully embracing veganism, she's clearly not immune to the influence of her daughters.
Yeah, and
So are any of them actually vegan?
That's what we're going to try to figure out.
It's a mixed bag.
It is a mixed bag, but there's one more anecdote that I think really adds to the complexity of this whole deep dive.
Okay.
The Times of India reported on Kim choosing a fully vegan menu for her attendance at the Ambani wedding in India.
Oh, it's right.
And remember how on her show she once called Indian food disgusting?
Oh, yeah.
So it's very interesting. And it reminds us that these aren't simple yes or no questions.
Yeah.
You know, their relationship with veganism is evolving and it's playing out in front of the whole world.
Yeah, it seems like they're figuring it out as they go along, just like the rest of us.
Exactly.
So what does it all mean? Are the Kardashians secretly vegan champions? Or are they just playing the game?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to try to unpack
in the rest of this deep dive.
I can't wait to see what other insights you've got.
We'll see.
This is getting good.
It is.
Did you know we have a vegan search engine, a vegan forum, a vegan newsletter, and so much more coming soon? So why not check us out at Caavakushi.com.
So we've established that the Kardashians' relationship with veganism is complicated.
It is a bit of a gray area.
Yeah, they're sending mixed signals at least.
Definitely.
What does it all mean for the vegan movement as a whole?
That's the key question, right?
Yeah.
Are they helping or hurting the cause?
Right.
And I think it's more nuanced than a simple yes or no.
Yeah.
Their influence is undeniable, even if it's kind of messy and sometimes contradictory.
It's like they're accidentally vegan influencers.
Oh, I love that, accidentally vegan influencers.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
It's like
they're not necessarily setting out to be these vegan role models, but their choices have ripple effects.
They do.
Nonetheless.
And those ripples are reaching a lot farther than just, celebrity gossip.
Right.
Like they're influencing what people eat, what people buy, how people are thinking about their impact on the planet and on animals.
Exactly. And think about it. If Kim Kardashian can promote vegan nuggets and inspire her family to at least try more plant-based options, that's a win for the movement in my book. It just normalizes.
For sure. Makes it seem more accessible to a wider audience.
Exactly. And let's not forget the impact on the food industry as well.
Right.
Kris Jenner promoting plant-based butter, Kylie launching a vegan cosmetics line. These are not isolated incidents.
They're not.
This reflects a broader shift towards, companies wanting to meet consumer demand for more ethical and sustainable products.
It's almost like this plant-based wave is like crashing into the mainstream.
Yes.
And even the Kardashians are getting swept up in it.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
And that wave is becoming a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
It's not just about individual choices anymore. It's about systemic shifts.
Yeah.
And the Kardashians, with their massive platform, are playing a role, even if it's a really unconventional one.
Yeah. So maybe instead of getting caught up in whether they're quote unquote true vegans, we should be focusing on the bigger picture.
I think so. Their actions and sometimes contradictions are sparking these conversations. They're pushing brands to innovate, and they're making plant-based living a more visible and accessible option.
Yeah, they might not be leading the vegan movement.
Right.
But they're definitely part of the conversation.
I think so.
And that's going to count for something, right?
Absolutely. And their influence, however unintentional it might be, is helping to create a world, I think, where veganism is less of a niche lifestyle and more of a mainstream choice.
Totally. And it's like chipping away at the stigma surrounding veganism, even if they're not doing it on purpose.
Exactly. And that's really powerful because it opens up the possibility for more people to consider these options.
For sure.
Which ultimately benefits animals, the planet, and our health.
Right. So maybe the Kardashians aren't the perfect vegan poster children.
Right.
But their impact is undeniable.
I agree.
And it's a reminder that change can come from unexpected places.
It's true.
And that even these accidental influencers can play a part in moving the needle.
It's a fascinating case study in how celebrity culture kind of intersects with social movements.
For sure.
And it's a reminder that progress isn't always linear or predictable.
It's messy.
It is.
It's complicated.
Very much so.
But it's happening.
It's happening. And sometimes those unexpected sources are the most effective because they challenge our preconceived notions and they force us to look at things from a different perspective.
That's so true. Speaking of different perspectives, remember that Cheeseburger Me blog post that completely ripped apart Kim Kardashian's Beyond Meat endorsement?
Oh, yeah, that was brutal.
Oh, my gosh. They were like...
They went for the jugular.
They did not hold back.
Not at all.
But they did raise an interesting point.
Yeah.
Can celebrities truly be trusted when they promote these plant-based products?
Yeah.
Are they just capitalizing on a trend?
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
And as consumers, we need to be discerning and critical, even when faced with these glamorous celebrity endorsements.
It's like we can't just blindly accept everything we see.
Right.
Especially when it's coming from someone who has a vested interest in selling us something.
Right. We have to do our own research.
Yeah.
Examine the ingredients, consider the company's ethics, and make informed choices that align with our values.
It's about being conscious consumers, not just passive followers.
It applies to everything.
Everything.
From the food we eat to the clothes we wear to the cosmetics we use.
So how do we navigate this world of celebrity endorsements and accidental vegan influencers without losing our critical thinking skills?
I think it starts with recognizing that celebrities are just people.
Yeah.
And they're just as flawed and complex as the rest of us.
They're not perfect vegans.
They're not.
And they're not necessarily experts on nutrition or ethics.
Exactly. They're trying to figure things out just like we are.
Just like us.
And that's okay. We can appreciate their efforts to promote plant-based living without putting them on a pedestal or blindly following their every move.
It's about taking the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Acknowledging their influence and using our own judgment to make informed choices.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's about taking responsibility for our own choices and recognizing that every purchase we make is a vote for the kind of world we want to create.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? Like, what's the takeaway from this Kardashian-themed deep dive into veganism?
I think the biggest takeaway is that veganism isn't about perfection.
Yeah.
It's about progress.
Yeah.
It's about making conscious choices that align with our values, even if we don't always get it right.
Totally.
You know.
And it's about recognizing that change can come from unexpected places, whether it's a celebrity endorsement or a powerful documentary or even just like a conversation with a friend.
Exactly.
It's about being open to new ideas, challenging our assumptions, and embracing this kind of messy, imperfect journey of trying to make a difference.
I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes that journey leads us down some pretty surprising paths, like analyzing the Kardashians' relationship with veganism.
Who would have thought? But here we are, and I think we've learned a lot along the way.
I agree. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to wrap things up and let our listeners ponder these ideas for themselves.
Okay, so after this deep dive, what have we learned about the Kardashians and veganism?
It's been a journey, right?
Yeah.
From faux fur to plant-based butter, documentaries to these multi-million-dollar ad campaigns.
Right.
It seems like veganism is everywhere these days.
It is.
Even in the land of reality TV stars.
Yeah. And it's not always clear cut. Like they're promoting vegan products one minute and then like digging into a steak dinner the next.
Right.
So it's a bit confusing, I think, especially for people who are new to veganism and looking for guidance.
It definitely raises questions about authenticity and the role of celebrity influence.
For sure.
But I think it also reflects a broader trend that veganism is becoming more mainstream, more accessible.
Right.
And it's less about strict rules.
Right.
And more about just making conscious choices.
Totally. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all of this.
Yeah.
Is that the Kardashians, with their love of luxury and their sometimes contradictory choices, are actually a pretty good reflection of where veganism is at right now.
I think you're right. It's not about being perfect.
It's about progress.
Yeah.
It's about trying new things, learning as you go.
Right.
And making choices that align with your values, even if you don't always get it right.
And it's about recognizing that influence can come from unexpected places, even from those who aren't necessarily trying to be role models.
Absolutely. We can learn from their successes, their missteps, and their willingness to experiment. But ultimately, it's up to each of us to decide what veganism means for us.
Right.
And how we want to incorporate it into our own lives.
So what do you think, dear listener?
Yeah.
Are the Kardashians helping or hindering the vegan movement?
Right. Are they accidental influencers? Or are they savvy businesswomen capitalizing on a trend?
We want to know.
We want to know.
Tell us what you think.
Head over to our social media and join the conversation.
Yes. Let us know what resonated with you, what surprised you, what you're still pondering.
What are you thinking about after this?
This deep dive has been all about exploring the complexities of veganism in the modern world. It has.
And we are excited to continue that conversation with you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
And until next time, keep diving deep.
Thanks for listening. We hope you liked this episode. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Also, we would be so appreciative if you could just share this episode or this podcast with all your friends and family who are vegans or vegan friendly. We're also really excited because we are going to be launching something really cool pretty soon on the site, so keep an eye out for that. And we will see you really soon with a new episode.